Right after this announcement is Antithesis, followed by the BBC NewsHour around 6. So stay tuned.
I'm Richard Curtis. I'm the chair of the Colorado District of the Communist Party, USA.
I'm Leo Ruiz. I'm on the board of directors of the National Chicano Human Rights Council.
I'm a socialist.
I'm an indigenous nationalist.
I don't agree with him most of the time.
And most of the time, I don't agree with him.
But we do agree about our radio show, Antithesis.
Every Sunday at 5:30 p.m., only on KGNU.
We talk about what most of the movement is afraid to talk about.
We talk about our differences and talk about politics the way real people talk.
And sometimes we have guests whose opinions are different from both of us.
Yeah, women, because it gets real tired just listening to two men mouth off on the radio all the time.
Antithesis, every Sunday at 5:30 p.m.
Only on KGNU. It's different and funny.
Funny?
Yeah, we're funny.
I'm not funny.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not.
Antithesis,
Yes,
Sundays
No,
at
I'm not.
5:30
No,
p.m.
I'm not.
Yes, you
Only
are.
on
No,
KGNU, Boulder.
And Denver, too. Come on, they can hear us out there. Some of them.
Some of them.
Good afternoon and welcome to Antithesis.
Antithesis is a weekly radio soiree of stimulating commentary and entertaining conversation discussing issues of importance in our daily lives.
Antithesis airs Sunday afternoon at 5:30.
I'm Richard Curtis.
I'm Leo Ruiz.
The opinions expressed on Antithesis are the opinions of the person speaking them.
And do not necessarily represent the views of the board, staff, or management of KGNU or of us here at Antithesis.
Because I might not agree with him.
And I might not agree with him. The International Indigenous Peoples Tribunal, convened during the Denver Summit of 8, decided in favor of Culebra watershed residents and joined them in demanding an immediate stop to industrial logging on the Taylor Ranch. The distinguished panel of jurists decided to support and to promote the demands of residents of the Culebra watershed and their supporters, which are currently being distributed and signed regionally and internationally. Testifying against the logging, environmental racism, political repression, and ongoing human rights violations were Shirley Otero, a founding member of the Land Rights Council of Chama, Colorado, Rocky Madrid, longtime activist and lifelong resident of San Acacio, Richard Garcia, one of the attorneys representing the Land Rights Council, and two members of Ancient Forest Rescue, Megan Corrigan and Brian Arnold. Ms. Otero discussed the history of the area through the time it has been populated. Quote, "We've always been good stewards." Her great-grandfather, she recounted, was out there fighting for the good of the people when Zach Taylor's father, Jack, fenced off the mountain in 1963. That struggle continued, Otero affirmed, on into my mother and my father's generation, and it is here today. She emphasized the importance of stopping Zach Taylor's cutting operations immediately by commenting that there might not be anything left of the most important part of the mountain tract at the rate of the current logging. She testified that the struggle has taken many forms because of the many different evolving attacks upon the communities of the Culebra watershed. She detailed one of the most intense assaults the community have faced, the poaching raid of 1989 and the entrapment of dozens of community members by Colorado Department of Fish and Wildlife undercover agent John Morgan. Our community has been under attack for a long time because we continue to live the way our grandparents and great-grandparents have lived and survived, she declared. We have been under attack by the government because they see that we are growing, because they see that people who have land have power and they want to take that power away. Attorney Richard Garcia spoke of the need to use human rights arguments based on international law, acknowledging the work of the people who are dedicated and who have the corazon to really work. The San Luis Valley native admitted before the tribunal that we're in a critical point on the lawsuit. Whether or not we win this lawsuit, Garcia testified, the land is still going to be there. The rights will continue to be there, and we'll continue to go forward with the struggles. Former paramedic and Marine veteran Rocky Madrid insisted that the industrial logging of the Taylor Ranch is only one of the hazards facing the farmers and ranchers of the Culebra watershed. He added that the cumulative effect of injuries done against the region of La Sierra must be understood in order to appreciate the gravity of the dangers they present. He was particularly critical of Earth Sciences Incorporated, the first owners of the cyanide leach pit gold mine upstream from San Luis, telling of incidents of massive fish kills and of a local man's dogs dying after they drank water downstream from the mine. Arrested during mid-June's anti-industrial logging protests, Madrid spent 77 hours, the longest period yet by an anti-Taylor protester, locked by the neck to a cattle guard blocking the main Taylor Ranch hauling road. Obeying attorneys' instructions to make no comment about his arrest and resulting head injury, Madrid would say only, "Let the communities you live in know what our situation is and come and join us in our nonviolent actions." Megan Corrigan and Brian Arnold from Ancient Forest Rescue narrated a slide presentation documenting the ongoing devastation of La Sierra. The assembly was silent as the AFR organizers described the slides projected on the wall of the large darkened meeting room in downtown Denver's Central Presbyterian Church, the site of the tribunal. Aerial photographs of the Taylor Ranch were presented in addition to images of the varied wildlife of La Sierra. Barren and deeply scarred slopes contrasted dramatically with the thick, dark virgin forest where, Arnold and Corrigan explained, sensitive and endangered species including lynx and wolverine thrive. A National Chicano Human Rights Council observer referred to the various international protocols by describing the previous testimony as documentation of institutionalized violations of internationally recognized cultural, community, civil, human, political, and economic rights. The Human Rights Council representative commented to the tribunal that all levels of government are demonstrating an institutionalized lack of political will and failing in their sworn duties by their generalized incapacity to protect the Sangre de Cristo region's residents. The International Indigenous Peoples Tribunal panel of jurists included Bolívar Beltrán, a Quechua expert in indigenous law and advisor to the indigenous representatives in the Ecuadorian Congress, Luisa Benson of the indigenous Burmese Karen National Union, Nilo Cayuqueo, a Mapuche from Argentina for the South and Mesoamerican Information Center, Carrie Dan, the highly respected representative of the Western Shoshone Defense Council, Ved Nanda, international law professor from Denver University, Chief Charlie Nelson, representing the people of British Columbia in their struggle against logging and other encroachments on their lands, and the signator of the decision of the tribunal supporting the Culebra watershed communities, the Nobel Peace Prize nominee, Mr. Sulak Sivaraksa, from the Kulanawitras Council of Thailand. They also heard cases from Australia, Southeast Asia, South America, the Northeastern Pacific Rim, Black Mesa, as well as community cases in Denver. The final findings of the International Indigenous Peoples Tribunal are available from Global Response, and we will have that phone number for you at the end of the program.
So, Leo,
Yeah.
are you saying that property owners don't actually have the right to do what they please with their property?
Well, I guess we could get into a whole bunch
How
of semantic
un-American.
stuff, like what is an owner? Let's start with what is an owner and what is possession, and does living out the Oedipal myth by going out and vanquishing the father symbolically by cutting down the phallic trees and possessing the mother by putting a fence around her, does that constitute ownership or mere temporary adverse possession? Somebody once said that, our historical destiny is erasing those stars off that flag, so get to work.
So what is ownership? Although I like the Oedipal simile there.
I thought you'd enjoy that. Oh, man. What is ownership? Does
What is
ownership
ownership?
mean that you need the water or you're going to die if you don't get it, and it doesn't matter if, somebody upstream wants to hog it all, you're going to go up there and open up the dam whether they like it or not?
Well, who owns the water?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. What's ownership?
Well, no, who does own the water? I mean, that's a real
who
question.
does? Like, who has water rights?
Who actually owns
Well,
the water in this
Rocky
situation?
Rocky Madrid, the guy that was, locked to the cattle guard in front of the main hauling gate at the Jaroso gate to the Taylor Ranch, is of the family that has first water rights off the mountain. How's that?
Is that part of the lawsuit?
Oh, man, the lawsuit is one thing and the forest thing is sort of something else. The lawsuit is something which is going on and on through the court because basically the people from the land are saying that at the time that Jack Davis filed his title back there in the 60s somewhere, might have been 63, I'm really not sure, that at that time he had his attorney change some of the language in the title. And they removed from the title the little phrase that to the effect that the people of the community would be able to continue to enjoy their traditional access to what they call usufruct rights, meaning, using the fruits of the land, usufruct. And they're supposed to be able to continue going up there and fish and hunt and gather wood. And, I've been told stories of how, like, 4th of July time, the whole town was empty. Because everybody went up to the mountains. Whole families went up to the mountains, and they spent the entire weekend just way up on the mountain. And everybody set up their camps. All these families set up their camps and, just had a community party off in the mountains. So that was stopped, let alone gathering traditional medicines. You can pay a whole bunch of money to go out and learn about the pharmaceutical properties of a lot of the stuff that grows here.
So it sounds like they don't own them.
Well, no. Okay, ownership. I think ownership is one thing. Access is something else. How are we?
Yeah.
What do you mean by ownership, man? Do you mean that you go and file a title and that the excuse me for using the following phrase, but white man's court stamps a piece of paper and says, yes, it's yours, and you say, oh, thank you.
And isn't that what the owner of this property did?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that the cat owns the stuff. That just means he's got temporary adverse possession of it, and that's going to change. It's changing. It's a hard battle, though, because he knows it's changing, and so what he's doing right now is basically burning his bridges behind him before he abandons the territory. You know how in warfare, if one army is driving another army out, the army that is being driven out will generally destroy what they left behind so that the enemy may not use them? You know what I'm talking about? Well, that's standard, right? Yes?
Yes. Oh, yes, of course. And
yeah. That's what Jack Taylor's doing right now, is he's cutting down the part which is most guaranteed to disrupt the lives on into the future of the community he's leaving behind him as he scuttles off the mountain like some sort of vermin seeking a deeper, darker, danker dungeon. He's a jerk.
Well, it sounds like that. I mean, he's destroying people's lives.
Yeah.
To make a few bucks.
For many generations. But a lot of bucks. It's the largest. It's 20 times bigger than the average big sale on public land. The sale on private land is 20 times bigger. 230 million board feet, and they say the average sale on public land is around 10 million.
But how much money
big
is that?
Sale.
Well, what kind of money is that?
I don't know.
Oh. But, well, I obviously don't respect bourgeois concepts of property right and property ownership to begin with, but if they're fighting a battle in court, then the argument has to be constructed in those terms.
This is what's really fascinating, because Rich Garcia has caught hold of I don't know how to phrase it exactly, like maybe the comet or the star, or the whirlwind or something that's right now making its way across the surface of the international community through using human rights arguments, which is real important.
But in what court is the lawsuit you're referring to? What level?
It went to the state Supreme Court, and now it's gone back to a lower court. The issue that went to the state Supreme Court is whether or not there was reason to believe that there is legal question as to the validity of the process that Jack Taylor undertook to inform the persons legally interested in his filing title.
And that would have been what?
In the 60s.
62 or
in the 60s, yeah,
sometime.
yeah. And what's been done is all of the research, check this out, man, all of the work has been done to find out who was living there then, and whether or not it was their names of who was living there through going through all of these family histories and
Right.
genealogies and all that stuff. What they wound up with then was a list of who, in fact, are the heirs to that case, and the Supreme Court has accepted that the heirs do indeed have the right to bring up the fact that the community was not notified amply enough for Jack Taylor's, the now deceased father of the current owner, whether he when he got the title.
Notified them.
Notified
of what?
them of the fact that of what? Maybe of the fact that they were being written out of the papers. I don't know. Or just the fact that he was taking possession.
I mean, if that...
I'm not sure of the exact point.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I'm not a
because
lawyer.
it does sound like that if there was something in the title that said people had the right to access the land, and that was changed, that does
Right.
sound reasonable.
Right.
That a court,
Right.
even our legal system might
Right.
require people to be notified.
Right. Now, though, what makes this thing so fascinating, you see, is that Taylor said, yeah, I'll sell
So what?
the land.
The land.
Oh,
after
for
the trees
this
are gone.
hugely inflated price. Oh, check it out. For this hugely inflated price to the state, which says it'll buy the land, having gone through a bunch of different kinds of shenanigans, it basically excluded the grassroots community and has people who are not even from the area sitting on a board to make decisions about what the state thinks should happen. But putting that aside for the moment, here is Zach Taylor willing to sell the land for a ridiculously inflated price, as long as, therefore expressing his willingness to sell, but he wants to keep logging rights for the next 10 years. He says no matter what price, he won't sell the logging rights for 10 years. You buy the land from him, he keeps logging rights for 10 years. And the concern right now is that there has been so much devastation of the area of the immediate watershed that feeds the Culebra River, which is what feeds all of those communities. That's the river that runs through the southeast quadrant toward the west and dumps into the Rio Grande.
Mm-hmm.
So the river already is showing the effects of having these huge tractor or tank tractor pieces, shod pieces of equipment, breaking up the soil. What they're doing is they're cutting every tree above 13 inches. That means those are only the ones that they're actually harvesting. They have a machine called a feller forward, which I mistook coming up the road for a combine on the back of a truck. I'd never seen one of these machines before. It looked like farm equipment to me,
Mm-hmm.
so I let down my guard when in fact it was loggers. And there's already a history of loggers pulling shotguns on at least 2 or 3 occasions on people who were involved in protests around the logging, whole other area we can get into.
Where
But
does this guy live?
Taylor?
Yeah.
North Carolina, South Carolina? I think South Carolina. I'm not sure.
Oh.
North or South Carolina.
So he's not even in Colorado.
No. The father, there's different stories of how it happened. I've heard one story that there's an anonymous somebody out there that nobody would recognize from anybody else that took a shot at Jack, the father, and only managed to get him in the foot. There's the other extreme. There's another story that somebody was on the roof and shot down through the roof and got him in the foot. And there's still another story that he was laying in bed and shot himself in the foot in order to be able to beat a hasty retreat and make the community look bad. And that's how the bullet hole went through the roof, that it's going from the in and out rather than from the out in. I've heard all those stories.
Well, what I was thinking is they need to take this protest to this guy's doorstep.
Well,
They want to prevent access to his house.
Well,
I mean,
you stop business as usual, and then, of course, do you think that I'm going to talk on the radio about kind of events might be in the planning stage? No, well, and even then, you think that, that this is being organized so well that
the community's response is
yes, it's the first time in history of the area that there has been a Anglo-Chicano coalition to deal with this kind of issue.
And that's the
These
folks from
young
Ancient
people
Forest.
from AFR and other organizations, including Earth First and Greenpeace and a few others. A lot of folks working anonymously, organizations involved anonymously as well, just because it's a good thing to do.
Well, and it does sound like it needs to happen fast too.
Well, it needs to happen real fast because the
watershed could be destroyed.
The thing is, with taking those 13-inch trees, they're taking precisely the trees which could survive a forest fire at the same time that managers of the ranch are claiming they're cutting them in order to prevent forest fires. The big tall trees, have so much mass they don't burst into flame like the little ones. They got branches way up really high, and the fire doesn't even reach, the topmost branches. They got thick bark that's already all scarred up that'll survive. Plus, they provide so much shade that there's all of this. There's not much in the way of annuals, wild annuals growing and dying off and growing and dying off and creating a layer of brush because you're underneath a bunch of trees. That stuff needs more sunlight. And there's this thick layer of leaves and needles, which mulches the ground really well. But when they come in and log, they also trim them. Oh, these machines, I said they look like combines. Each one of those machines does the work, they say, of 8 people, given whatever terrain they're in. And what it does, it yanks out the tree, trims off the bottom, trims off the branches, and stacks it.
All at once.
All at one time.
Yeah.
And those things, they say, can take down up to 600 trees a day. That depends on where they are, but they're tremendously powerful machines. This is not even traditional logging, You hear some chainsaws up there, but that's the cleanup crews. Then they take all the branches that are cut off and fill ravines with them, basically, fill gullies, fill, little creek beds with them. And call them, what's the term they use, slash piles.
You
see,
piles.
So now, by allowing these annuals to grow in the ripped up earth, you wind up with tinder, right? The stuff that'll first go up in flames. Then with these huge slash piles, in some cases, they were telling me like 3 stories high, about 100 feet long. That thing is perfect pile of kindling.
Oh, man.
And then there's all these little trees, a lot of them still knocked over, but these small trees that catch fire, right? And so it's easy for the fire to go. And on top of that, and perhaps even more insidious, is that the trees provide shade for the snow, so that the snow melts gradually into late summer in order to feed the watershed throughout the year. That way there's water in late summer when people need it most for their crops. But when the trees are gone, the snow all melts off right away because of the sunlight on it. Plus, those areas where the ground has been scarred up by those tank tracks and other kinds of motorized vehicles up there, those act like as heat sinks, right, where the black earth is, and that attracts more sunlight, and there's more snow, and there's more melt, and since they're following the contours of the land, those become the perfect stream beds then for new erosion.
Right.
I mean, it erodes with the contours of the land and creates these huge gullies.
When were you down there for the big action?
Mid-June. I was there in mid-June.
And how much time do they think they got left before the watershed is destroyed?
There's a point at which I think that people are trying to avoid the example of the dominating culture by, in this case, not researching it so thoroughly that they're prevented from taking action because all their resources are put into research. There's a certain level of research, and there's very, very, very limited resources. One of the greatest things I saw happening was old people coming out and offering not just food, but different kinds of equipment that were useful for meeting the needs of a camp of roughly around a dozen people out on a flat-out, open, wind-swept, sage-covered plain, where there was open country basically forever west of us, and open country for about 4 miles north of us, and open country to a bunch of trees down in the flatlands about 1.5 miles, 2 miles south of us, and then nothing but the Sangre de Cristo Mountains rising about a mile east of us. And that was where the gate was, where Rocky was locked down the whole time.
Right. Well, but it is a race against time. I mean, the watershed will be destroyed if the logging continues.
Everything is a race against time, and I think right now all of the attention possible is being gotten on it, and people are being encouraged, as a matter of fact, to get in contact with Ancient Forest Rescue or in the Rocky Mountain Peace Center, I suppose, could help people. Greenpeace could get people. I'll give you a phone number. You want to hear a phone number?
What's the phone number?
I'll give you a phone number. Oh, we're almost at the end of the show, aren't we?
Well, we got 5
phone
minutes.
number should be for Ancient Forest Rescue is area code 719. Area code 719-672. That's easy. All of San Luis is 672. That's the prefix, 672.
Okay, now you know.
And the last
you heard
numbers
it here first.
come on, man. If you've been around, you know. But then, okay, that gives you an example of if you've been around or not. If you have truly lived at the point of living in the traditional culture of a place called Jose Valle de San Luis, for sure, you'd know that all of the towns just need phone numbers. When you ask a phone number, they just say, 3012.
That's comfortable.
Yeah. So
Okay,
it's area code 719-672-3012. That's the phone number for Ancient Forest
Ancient
Rescue. Get more
Forest
information.
Rescue.
Yeah, because during the weekend in July, when they have the Santiago Santana Festival, people are especially encouraged to go. And I'm going to go walk across there and look at the calendar here. We got a calendar of July. That's the weekend.
Leo's looking at the calendar.
And the 27th.
So 26th, 27th of July,
Yep.
big party, San Luis Valley.
And it's
Save
in
some
the community
trees.
of
Save the people.
Oh, it's let's not even think in terms of save, because that's just like trite. Come on, like save the whales.
We're
Sounds
saving a
trite.
community
Save the
here.
whales, save the sea, save the trees.
There's
I know, but
communities.
it sounds even. We're not really saving. We're joining in the struggle that they have maintained for generations upon generations upon
To survive.
generations. Yeah, and it's just the latest thing, And I think one of the most important things for people around here to realize is how very, very, very important it is to understand that the help should not be a problem, and to behave like in what I'll call a culturally appropriate way, because you're going into somebody's community and it's very different in this community, and we especially want to thank the people who are in San Luis who set up the AFR office and many of their allies for knowing how to act, and realizing that basically it's young Anglo-American college students who have access to the resources demographically and oftentimes
Right.
have a hard time figuring out how to use them. And in this case, they are working in concert with the community, which just because of the demographics has not got people, man, to have one person from the community come out like Rocky and be, locked down like that is a big step, but especially to have those grandparents come out and offer what they've got to help support what amounted to this little instant village, of about a dozen people living literally on the road, with
block trucks?
the ones, well, in this case, it was to
Really?
provide support for the guy who was locked down at the gate. It was all support
Right.
for the one who was
Keep
there.
him from
There were
getting
people
run
to see
over.
what kind of vehicles were coming up. People, prepared to put themselves between him and whatever kind of danger may come. Because one of the people actually was one of the people who was one of the peacekeepers around, one of the monitors, we could say, around these protests. Barely managed to avoid getting run over by a truck. Somebody in town tried to back over him in a pickup truck, popped his clutch and stomped on the gas and burned rubber and went back in reverse about 3 yards trying to run this guy over. And he jumped straight up in the air and landed in the irate person's pickup truck in the bed.
Whew, that's quick thinking.
Well, and then he laughed
So
at him.
how long a drive is it from here? From Boulder?
4 hours from, 4.5 hours maybe from Boulder.
Boulder, okay.
But yeah, I'd say the most important thing to do really would be to contact local Greenpeace. You can look up that number yourself, or call Ancient Forest Rescue in San Luis, and the area code is 719-672-3012. Or you can contact the Rocky Mountain Peace Center undoubtedly.
And which, on the subject of phone numbers, we've been having a phone number problem ourselves, haven't
Oh,
we?
the phone number. How much time we got left?
Just a couple minutes.
Oh, the phone number was wrong.
Oh, the phone.
The
Leo
comment line.
Leo has been giving out the wrong
I'm
number
giving
for
out
the
wrong
comment
one.
line
And
on
believe
the
me,
show.
that's what happens when he agrees with me. I'll be right back.
Oh, now he's gone. Okay, so here I am, alone in the studio, doing a talk show by myself. Actually, the Rocky Mountain Peace and Justice Center can be reached at 444-6981, and we certainly want to thank those people for the good work they do. So if you're interested in the goings-on and some solidarity work, give them a call and just mention that you're interested in the Taylor Ranch protest action.
447
Hey, Leo's back. It's what?
447-9911.
That's 447-9911.
That's what somebody told me.
That's the comment line for listeners to call in, comment about
And,
Antithesis
email,
or
okay.
anything. And we have email now.
OCTLI.
It's Okot
Okot.
with an L at the end. OCOTL at AOL.com.
Right.
That's okay. So that's how you can communicate with us. And now we're certainly open to listener feedback and suggestions for whatever you might have going on. Let us know.
Well, this is radio.
This is radio.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right.
Is that it? Do we have to go now? That was it? I spent all my time wandering around outside trying to find somebody.
Trying to find something. I don't know what you were looking for.
I was looking for the phone number, so you got the phone number now. And
Okay.
don't forget to give us a call. And don't forget Ancient Forest Rescue is doing cool stuff.
Cool stuff.
The old
Cool
folks are coming
goings
out
on.
and digging it. Yeah, los ancianitos are coming out. And the food.
Okay, and the
Well,
food.
local people bring out food.
Okay, well, we got to go.
Chile.
Thanks for listening.
No, I mean,
This has
it's
been
not
this has been
Yes,
Antithesis.
Really, really good.
5:30
limes and
to 6 on
tortillas
Sundays.
and they're bringing out green chili and red chili.
We appreciate your listening in and encourage you to join us each and every week on KGNU Boulder.
Yes, that's right. You're listening to KGNU Boulder, 88.5 FM with translator K260 AC in Fort Collins, Colorado, and 99.9 megahertz, and translator K229 AC in Ward, Colorado, at 93.7 megahertz. Stay tuned. The BBC News Hour is running late, but it is coming up in the next few minutes. I appreciate your patience. And stay tuned.